Hello everyone, welcome to Metra. We are the new meta of business. This is our first virtual minutes meeting, and I am the chairman of the board, CFO, and CEO, and I'm Derek Boyd, and this is...
Hey, I'm Vladimir Sokolov. I'm the president and secretary of Metra Incorporated. And I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a legal disclosure here. Sorry, bullshit laws, gotta do this. So, we are not licensed realtors. We are not licensed attorneys. We have no form or credentials of any kind whatsoever. We are nothing more than simple owners of business, of houses, and of our own personal knowledge. Anything that we say can potentially provide to you or give any kind of advice or opinions is to be considered nothing more than for entertainment purposes only. Welcome to bullshit disclosures. Rule 1 of business.
Protect yourself before you wreck yourself.
So, with that being said, I guess the vast majority of you probably have no clue what the hell a minutes meeting is. So, whenever you create a corporation, any kind of corporation, an S Corp or a C Corp, you have to do something known as a minutes meeting. What is a minutes meeting, you ask? Great question. It is a complete and utter waste of time when you are a sole business with one or two members in your business, because basically you two have to sit down, you have to do a meeting, you have to write out everything that is discussed in that meeting. You must then write down any objections that either person has with it, and this meeting is considered to be between the board of directors, which is us. So this is literally the president, the CEO, the CFO, the chairman, the secretary, and the shareholders, which is also us. So, your shareholders normally can sit there and hold a vote if they have a major objection in a minutes meeting, and at the end of that vote, that's what determines what the corporation is going to do from there, as well as potentially appoint members of the board or whatever your bylaws state. What are bylaws, you ask? We'll get to that. So,
and actually, one thing you just touched on that's pretty important is that in the first minutes meeting, after you get the company all set up, the shareholders have to pick the board members, and then the board members then start picking out and delegating all the tasks afterwards. So the first board meeting is so stupid, because you're like, yes, I am the man who made the company. I picked myself to run the company, but first I have to sell myself shares in my own company to be able to pick myself to run the company and then run the company.
Keyword, sell. So you can do vested interest, which is the equivalent of share what equity. So that's basically where you work to sit there and get payment or get compensation or whatever else. However, have fun making the contract for it, because you have to specifically dictate how much you have to work, how long you have to be with the company, how many shares you will get each month, weekly, yearly, however long you're with the company. Well, how much those shares are going to be worth to you at the course of a certain point, and if there's any kind of accelerated shares or buyback clauses with those shares. So yeah, you want to do sweat equity and not pay for your shares for your own company that you created? Have fun making the paperwork for it, because I know I sure as hell didn't want to, so both him and I just bought our shares.
Exactly. And the last thing we wanted is down the road some hostile takeover to happen, and somebody just basically write out our own clause from us and then just stop us or cap us on our own sweat equitable interest. So basically, if we only earned into 10% of our share, then that's all we get, because somebody else took over the other 90% and capped us.
To further touch on that, the reason it's important, he's talking about only earning 10% of your shares. When you first start off, you're typically just going to do something known as common shares. That means that all shares have the exact same voting power. Remember that minutes meeting we talked about earlier, and how the shareholders have to vote on something? Yeah, you have to literally vote on what's going to happen. So if somebody does an aggressive takeover of your company and you allow it and you didn't realize it, and you only have 10% voting rights, you could accidentally, even though those shares are promised to you, you can't sell shares that are promised because you still have to earn them. However, you could accidentally give somebody the vast majority voting power in your own company, and they can literally replace you and take all the assets, because the thing is, you are not the company. You are a dude. The company is another dude. Imagine him as the dude, me as the dude, the company is sitting right here. That's literally how this works. You are completely separated from your own company, and that is just a teensy ounce of everything we've had to learn to set up a C Corp.
To give you a really crappy example of what a company is like, I remember I saw somebody mention this before, and I think it's hilarious and also a perfect metaphor. It's like 4 kids in a trench coat pretending to be an old man so they can go buy beer in a store. That's a company. You got 4 shareholders BSing their way into one figure being the old guy trying to do business, which is get the beer out of the store.
That's exactly right. So that's pretty much the basic understanding of a minutes meeting. If you guys have any more questions on it, we'll be happy to answer them to the best of our retarded knowledge. However, keep in mind, anything we say, we recommend you do your own due diligence because we have been absolutely clueless in this entire venture. Now, I think it's probably a good time for us to go ahead and move on to the next segment. Let's introduce ourselves and kind of our background. So, I'll start with myself. My name is Vladimir Stokalov. I have been a real estate investor now for about 3 years of prior knowledge and experience and everything else like that with handling. I grew up in Russia. I immigrated over here about the age of 6, and I became a legal citizen at the age of 12. Derek and I have been doing somewhat of a partnership here and there, and now we finally decided to take the full leap and actually become a full company and start presenting it from there. So that's kind of my general introduction on my experience, what I know, and who I am as a person. So Derek, if you want to do yours.
Yeah, in a nutshell, I'm not too far off. I'm basically the same thing. Been an investor for about 3.5 years now, so just a little longer than Vlad. Same kind of field, just real estate for the most part. Born and raised in the U.S., basically haven't really done anything that's particularly special. Went to college and just kind of did a couple odd jobs here and there. And now kind of kick off my own little career and did well with that. And now we've decided to partner up and do something even bigger.
So, what we want to do with these videos here is that we pretty much want to give you guys an insight to Metra as a corporation. So right now, you're seeing just Derek and I. And what our objective is that we're wanting to do a couple of things. We're wanting to, one, kind of do this as a quasi podcast, but really more of a documentary. We want you guys to actually see where we're starting from and where we end up at. Later on in the video, we'll go over our finances, what we currently have, what we're currently working with, and what we're actually going to be moving forward with from this point forward. And honestly, you guys are just going to get to watch us either succeed or fail. Our objective is to prove that even in 2021, with COVID, with the entire divide of our country, with the crazy political system we're in, with all the issues and problems that are coming from unemployment, job loss, hard up investment opportunities,
all the insecurities that are happening out there.
Yeah, literally everything. We want to truly test it and push it to the absolute limit. Is the American dream still a valid option? We want to see. And the thing is that for you guys, every single month we're going to be putting out these videos. We're going to be talking about the month, what happened in that month, what the difficulties we experienced in that month are, and how we've grown or regressed as a business because of it, and kind of show everything. That's why we had to do the disclosure at first, because the thing is that anything we provide here could be considered as legal advice. Understand the main purpose of this channel is just kind of showing our perspective on our own events and just kind of turning around and giving you guys, how should I put this, entertainment.
and a third little caveat, so not only are we a podcast style with a bit of a documentary for our personal selves, but also think of it as education. But not education like we're showing you or telling you how to do something, more like education that you can learn from our mistakes. So anything that we do, don't do it, so that way you can do the right thing, because we're probably doing it the wrong way.
Yeah. So with all that being said, I think now's a great time for us to go ahead and move into the month of January. So we're going to just start it off on this first day, January 1st, as we have started to try to create a corporation
right
on January 4th.
Everything started off great.
So we'll start going into that. So the first thing you have to do when you want to start a company, you got to pick a name.
That is the simplest thing to think of. Like, yes, to start, just make a name, and then just build everything around it, like a nice little web, right? No, God, no, that's the worst idea. Thinking of a name is so freaking hard.
It's
like, okay, so to give you a general idea, yes, sounds simple, like you think of a name for your child, you think of a name for your pet. Here's the problem with it. You're not thinking of a name for like a child or a pet, you're thinking of a name for yourself.
But wait, here's the issue. A lot of people that have kids, that have pets, and name them, they're not thinking about, oh, what's going to look great on a hotel in the future?
Yes.
What's going to look great on a banner or
Yep.
like in a parade, or like you could put it on like a cell phone case or a t-shirt or whatever else. Yeah, you're not going to sit there and name yourself Johnny Kyle Smith.
Yes.
And
then,
that's going to be plastered
but wait,
everywhere.
the other best part about naming kids or pets is you can have that same name a billion times and nobody cares. If you have Mittens the cat, that's fine. It matches with the other 10 million Mittens out there.
Yeah.
But if you have Apple or Google the company, you cannot have 10 million other Apples or Google.
That's exactly
you have
right.
to make it unique. And it rebrands yourself.
And here's why. So you're like, okay, you guys are clearly overreacting about making a name. So, branding is king. And simple, short branding works. Let me tell you, out of all the names that we went through, why we went with Metra. Because a website domain called www.metracorporation was available.
Yes.
And a Gmail address at metracorporation@gmail was available. Metra Inc. was not available, and Metra itself is not available.
And
but
10
those
other
two
variations of that were not available.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, when we say we thought of other names, we went through like 4 days of just like 6 hours of just being like, okay.
So think about this. January 1st, January 4th.
Yes.
The name was picked. And this was an 8-hour-a-day thing. It got so bad that him and I were sitting in my house on the floor just spouting out names.
And I'm not even going to lie how the name even came up. So his girlfriend was giving us a name for something, somewhat of a different style name. And we were like, okay, it's kind of a bit of a ring to it. It might work. And then I was like, all right, whatever. Let's try running with the kind of the ending context of it and run it with some other names. And we ran with this idea for like 6 freaking hours at this point, already on day 4 or whatever we were at this point. I remember laying on his floor, staring up, because he has a shelf in his room with all of his games on it, and literally looking at the beginning of every single game, and then just putting a different ending on it, until eventually it matched and made something that didn't sound stupid. And I kid you not, literally the word Metra came from Metro 2033, take off the O and put an A on it, bam! And then we checked and seen that the domain was available with Metra Corporation
and let me tell
Gmail,
you,
and we rolled with it.
When we saw that the domain was available, you damn well better believe we bought it immediately, because the last thing we needed was to start committing to this, and then someone else comes through and buys it. That will just ruin you. When you spend 4 days coming up with a name, that is awful. So yeah, that's how you come up with a name for a business from our perspective. It is not as simple as people think.
And the worst part is that's just getting the domain, so the URL where you're going to actually have most of your presentation, I should say. And then also you want to have like some type of, email or something to give people so they can contact you, so you want to make it referenceable. But also, that's just the presentation. That's the advertisability. Legally, you have to get it too.
Yeah,
you have to make sure that the place that you're going to file it in has it available, and that you can actually be the company.
So right now, think of the company. We are already negative. I want to say it was like, what, $30 for like 2 years of the domain name?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, $30. Already negative. Already spent, plus the 4 days. No. You double down.
That's
you
right.
say, I want this name and I will get it wherever I can. But do you know where the most amount of C Corp companies are incorporated in? We're talking your big ones.
Fortune 500 companies, the big ones,
yeah,
the big wealthy
big
companies that matters.
Apple, Google, which is technically owned by Alphabet for those of you that don't know. Alphabet's the actual main company there. So Alphabet had Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
We had
I think it was Starbucks.
Starbucks. Was Amazon one of them as well?
I think Amazon was actually in California. But either way, it was a bunch of... it's all those huge ones you would know of.
Yeah.
You can just Google it, you'll be like, yeah, I know of every single one of those companies.
Guess where all these guys file in? Delaware. Yep.
The tiniest, most random state.
If you don't know where Delaware is, don't worry. I'll put it here in the video and zoom in on it for you to figure it out. I had to look on the map because I didn't know where the hell Delaware was.
Yep, and I don't know because nobody does. It's just a random state that people pass through to get to the actual states that matter.
Yeah. So, well, now, okay, makes sense. File your organization in Delaware, right? No. You need to have a Delaware address.
Yep.
Okay.
Because we're not in the state.
Yeah.
You know, we can't be foreign entities just randomly opening businesses in random different states. No. You have to be a resident or at least have an address where a registered agent can open it for you, like an attorney. Do you want to pay an attorney to do that, which is going to cost you like between $1 and $10,000, depending on how serious you're getting with it? Or you want to be the cheap deadbeats that you are because you're trying to start a company with nothing.
Rat. You want to be a rat, okay? Because you don't have... Yep. You don't have a lot of money. You don't have a lot to work with. You are going to scurry your way into whatever you can because you already spent $30 on the domain name and you are not giving up.
That's right. You doubled down. So you're going more into it, just without the money aspect of it, but more serious.
Yes. So, here's what we did. We got this beautiful thing known as a virtual physical address.
And that does matter, by the way.
It does matter. So, a physical virtual address, what differentiates it from a virtual address is that a virtual address, you could literally have your mail being sent to somewhere in South Carolina, but the address for it be in Virginia, in Delaware, in California, but realistically, when it gets sent to the post office, it's just getting forwarded off to this actual
just like a
place.
Call being forwarded, you can have a number.
It doesn't
it just
exist.
Goes to somebody else. Same logic.
It's all BS. It doesn't exist. But a physical, which is also more expensive, that is okay. Not a problem. You can totally get away with a physical address for your company.
Yep. Because now you're actually in an area that mail can go to. Thus, it's like you live there.
And it's a physical place that anyone can show up and there actually be a registered spot for you as a company. So you better believe that's what we did.
And we did the hell out of it and found the cheapest one.
In fact, we were so paranoid about it that once we found out that in Delaware we could incorporate under the name Metra, we paid them $75
to reserve the name.
Name.
Because one, we didn't know how hard it was going to be or long it was going to be to actually file and get it legalized. And two, we had no freaking clue of how to do it, so we had to go through all this stuff like finding the actual address for it. So we were like, okay, let's just go ahead and pick the really super safe route because we already got this domain and we're not screwing ourselves. We've got to double down. So we paid $75 just to reserve it for 6 months and not even keep it for that long. But whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So again, we are now 100 plus down the drain, but we ain't giving up yet. No, sir.
I will triple it down.
I will triple down because after you pay for the domain registration, you get your physical address to then be able to use it to actually file corporation name. Now you got to go to something known as the Articles of Incorporation. What are the Articles of Incorporation for those of you that have filed a business?
Literally, the Articles of Incorporation, while albeit very small, it's like 1 page in Delaware. It's so dumb what it is. It literally is a formal letter basically saying like, yeah, can you legitimize me? And then some guy's like, I have the power to do that. Yeah, I guess so. And then just walk and you're done. You're legal. Congratulations, you're a company now. You can go open bank accounts.
January 5th of 2021, we got legitimized. You would think we would know that we got legitimized on January 5th of 2021.
No.
No. That's not how this works.
No. So we submitted the form on January 5th. Didn't hear jack for weeks, right? And we're trying to follow up with them. We're like, hey, what are we doing? And then finally they were like, oh, you guys did the regular filing. And we're really backed up right now because it's the end of the year.
Keep in mind, this is the Secretary of State of the government.
Yes. And they're like, tax time's coming in. So we're kind of swamped. You can pay more money and get it done faster. And we're like, okay, what's the estimated time of the regular filing? And they're like, oh, right now it's about 5 months. And we're like, oh, it's been like a week and a half. No. What's the other alternatives? And they're like, well, you can do like $500 for like a 1 hour processing.
No, $1,000, they will look at it right now.
They'll just run it into the guy's office and he's like, go, 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 go.
I'm like,
I think it's money.
$1,000. You want to charge us $1,000 to actually pull the file, which you already have.
They just ignored
it. Stamp it. Just stamp it. You literally have the file in front of you.
Then they were telling me all the other alternatives, and then they got down to the 24-hour filing one, which was $50, and we were like, yeah, let's do that now.
Triple down.
And so we did, and within 3 hours or 4 hours or something like that, they actually approved it, which was, we didn't know.
They approved it, but the thing is, they don't reach out to you on it. They just stamp it and then send it off to the mail that you tell them to go. Which our mail, by the way, keep in mind, is a physical address in Delaware.
But they did send me a receipt via email.
Yes. They make sure you know that they charge you.
You don't even know how much they charge you. I forgot about that. So when you file this Articles of Incorporation to actually get legalized, right, it just says, like, fill out, okay, because we did a C Corp, so we have a stock amount with there, so we had to figure out a whole BS amount of reasons of how many stock we have, what's the par value of it, like, aka what it's worth, dirt. And then we had to get it in there so that way they could, basically figure out how to tax us later on down the road. And so when we did that, we were like, okay, how much do we pay? And they're like, no. We figure out how much we charge you once we file it.
Yeah, this is the first time in my life. Everyone's made the joke, everyone's made the meme about like, oh, how much do I owe you? I'll tell you what you owe once we're done.
Done, yeah. That's
never in my life did it actually happen. Just give me your
credit card information on file. And then we'll charge you later.
They'll take everything. They'll take credit card, debit card, direct bank account, wire information.
But they will not tell you how much you pay until you've already got the receipt. And we're like, whatever.
So they finish their process and then they charge your account.
So with that $50, it wound up costing us $189. I guess $139 was the actual filing fee. We didn't know until after it came out in fact.
Yep.
Once again, we have no idea we've been filed at this point. It's now the next day, so this is now January 12th or 13th or something like that, because it's been a week and some change. And so now it's January 13th, and we're like, well, let's go ahead and start getting the bank accounts open. Let's move forward, get the business running, right? Well, in order to do a bank account and get it open, you're going to have what is called an EIN, which is an employer identification number, which is only given to you from the IRS, aka federal government.
Now, IRS. Beautiful system we have here.
Yeah. Glorious.
Always. You can always get an EIN. You can get an EIN for something that doesn't exist.
Yes, literally.
Because all the government cares about is what this EIN is. So it is a piece of paper for them to be like, oh, you are creating something. Oh, it will pay taxes to me. Here is your paper. You have to have nothing. Now, never lie to the IRS, never commit fraud with the IRS, but the thing is, there is no verification process at all. They issue that thing to you immediately. They literally don't care.
To them, it's the same thing as a new child just got born today.
And they're just stamping it.
Except it's already 18. And they're like, I love it. Please, produce more of these automatically 18-year-old children. Pay us more money. We love you.
EINs are so easy to get. You can get them for everything under the sun, between LLCs, corporations, trusts, non-profits, churches. I mean, and it's issued out to you right there. Just make sure to select.
Literally within a second.
Yeah,
you just fill out the information, and it's like, bam, here's your number, you're legal. Yep. Congratulations.
That's exactly right. But now, we got the EIN, but even though we pay for this 24-hour filing, we find out that Delaware has no automatic system whatsoever. They do everything by good old-fashioned paper mail. Fax machines? Too fancy for Delaware.
Yep.
No.
Too new age.
Yep.
No. Never even heard of an email outside of sending you the receipt after they charged you.
The stupid thing is that Derek called them and asked them, okay, are we filed? And they're like, yes, you are filed. Yes, we fulfilled our service. Yes, everything is done. Here is your filing number. You could go onto Delaware, pick up our filing, look at our filing number. You see Metra Inc., you see Derek Boyd with our physical address there. Everything is exactly as it should be.
We just had no idea.
No idea, and
we had no paperwork to prove it.
No paperwork to prove it. and they can't send us the paperwork because they already sent it out in the mail. And that's when we learned the disaster that's going on in Delaware.
So they had sent out the actual articles of incorporation, the physical piece of paper we also need to supply in order to open bank accounts, because it says that yes, you legally are registered in the state, and basically the government recognizes you because they want you to pay taxes. That's the only two forms of paper you really need to do anything with. And in the meantime, we were like, well, the other stuff you have to have in order to open up a stock corp or a C corp bank accounts or anything like that, you got to have like your minutes meeting, you got to have your stock issue and all that other stuff.
We'll get into that later.
So
we're focusing on one thing at a time.
So we had to knock that stuff out in the meantime, and we never got our paperwork in, and we, like you said, called in, tried to get the stuff figured out, and there was no way of like expediting the paperwork because it all goes to the USPS. We could go to FedEx, but whatever, that's not any better. Sure enough, try to go to a bank, can't get it open, don't have the paperwork. Next day we get the paperwork in the physical address. So we're like, oh, great. Then we finally open a bank account.
We literally tried to open up bank accounts beforehand, and the bank accounts couldn't do anything because they needed our corporation number through Delaware, and they weren't sure, because obviously we're in a different state, if the corporation number is actually the same. If the filing number is the same thing as the corporation number, we call a banker up in Delaware. He confirms with us, yes, it's the same exact thing. We go back to them, but they're like, yeah, I still need it. For what?
Yeah, so we're like, whatever. So the next day it just happened to come in, and we're like, oh,
yeah,
God.
it was by the grace of God. But so with that, actually, I want to continue on this bank train. Listen, okay, right now, banks do not care about you. You are irrelevant to them, and I'll tell you right now. Shout out to Park National Bank. You guys are awesome. Derek and I had spent 5 hours driving to different bank branches, calling different bank branches, which half of them don't answer because most of them are requiring an appointment to open up a bank account. Even when Derek walked into Wells Fargo and the dude that opens up bank accounts is sitting in the back playing with his phone, doing nothing. You can see him do this. And they're just like, yeah, no, you have to schedule an appointment. It's company policy. We'll not do anything else.
I'm talking to the teller at the BS plexiglass window, and they're like, sorry, he's booked up right now. And I look behind me, watching this guy playing on his phone. He stares right back at me. And I look at the lady, and she's like, company policy. And I just walk right the hell out.
And Bank of America as well was another one, even though at least they let us walk in and actually schedule the appointment there, where Wells Fargo was telling us to go yeet yourself onto some online system. Yeah. Bank of America at least scheduled our appointment for the next day. It wasn't preferable, but whatever, we need another one. South State, listen, we used to love South State. We absolutely adored them. I don't know what has happened to South State, but they've just been falling apart.
They had this really big merger that happened with some Florida bank, and ever since that merger, they've been an absolute disaster. They're just falling apart.
Just South State, I don't know if you've ever seen the meme. Press the undo button. That you upgraded? No, downgrade. Yeah. Go back to what you were. You were perfect. I picture perfect. But that's why I want to give Parks National Bank this. Even though they have a really weird policy, nobody's allowed in their lobby, and they do everything through the drive-thru.
Yeah, when you said drive-thru, we literally went in the drive-thru and had to file all of our paperwork standing up outside. The lady,
I had to reverse my car so Derek and I could go and have this thing just pull out to us so we could sign paperwork, supply them all our information.
Give our paperwork, trade back and forth underneath the little window. You know what I'm talking about? Like, here's the window, lady, and then here's the box that comes in and out to give them the stuff they need and the stuff you need. Here's our paperwork. They send it back to us. We sign it off on it. Paperwork. It was back and forth for like an hour.
Yeah.
It's a really dumb system, but whatever.
But the thing is that they took us. They didn't give us any BS. They didn't give us any hard time. Bank account was open within an hour. Phenomenal job. Shout out to them. Great customer service. I saw on your guys' website, you talk about customer service. You excelled at it. I have no complaints whatsoever. Thank you. And because of that, you will be our primary bank that we're going to be using for our business moving forward now. Now, outside of that, and hashtag not sponsored, but outside of that, I think it's time we back it up a little bit. So, you're thinking to yourself in the meantime, alright, well, I know we have this company, we don't have the articles of incorporation, so like I said, we're backing it up. So we're back to the point where we don't have our articles because we have no clue what's going on with Delaware. And we're just like, all right, well, let's go work on all the other things that we need to do as a company. Makes sense, right? So one of the biggest recommendations I can give you as a starting out, I don't care if you're an S or a C Corp, because this isn't like an LLC. I don't care which one you are. Go to a website, spend the $80 for a corporate binder. You will need it. What is a corporate binder, you ask? Well, a corporate binder is a binder that holds all of your company's information that the state and the federal government don't give you anything at all, but it's required by law for your company to actually function. Who tells you about this information? Nobody.
Nobody. Google did. Because we Googled it a lot.
Yeah.
Nobody tells you.
So, nobody tells you this information. What's the first thing a company needs to run? Well, you would think, okay, well, you got to get your articles of incorporation, and then you got to get an EIN and get a bank account open. No. The company has now been birthed. Nobody, and I literally mean nobody, has any control, directive, decision, or can even do anything legally with the company. So, if you got a company, a C Corp or an S Corp, and you do not turn around and start off down this train with this corporate binder, you're already doing it fraudulently. What a wonderful deal. Here's what you have to do. You have to create bylaws. What are bylaws, you ask? It is a constitution, and I don't care what anybody else says. It is a constitution of your company. Yes, you must make the American Constitution of your company. How is voting done? How are notices done? What is the laws?
Literally,
what
every
positions
branch
do you
of the
have?
government, every branch of your company.
Yes.
Literally
Yes.
down to the T. It is the Constitution. Just really small, shortened version, your company.
Yes. And now that you have your bylaws, which, by the way, we shortened ours as much as possible, it's like 36 pages. And all of it was necessary.
Shortened it. It was longer.
And all of it is necessary because you have to go through everything with it. Now you got your bylaws in place. Okay, cool. Now you're established and good to go, right? No. You are still illegal if you act.
Yep.
Now, you have to have your first minutes meeting.
Yep.
And you have to accept and vote on the bylaws to incorporate them to make them valid. So you can have this 36-page piece of paper that you're like, yes, this is good. Somebody can question you in court, be like, where's the first minutes meeting saying that you adopted it? If you can't provide it, you got a problem.
Yeah, you're technically not a valid company. Just because you didn't do it the legal route, which is some BS meeting that you guys did in a back corner that signed off on something saying, yeah, we did this. Otherwise, courts and everybody else won't recognize you as a legal entity, or you screwed up your process. And you'll have to do some stuff down the road to kind of backtrack and fix it. But yeah, so the minutes meeting, to kind of further add into this, so yeah, first you have to, like he said, kind of adopt the bylaws, but in order to adopt the bylaws, you have to have a board, or the shareholders basically put the board in place to be able to adopt the bylaws to begin with. In order to do that process, you have to have the incorporator, which is the person who filed for the Articles of Incorporation, which is the thing we sent to Delaware, to then give the power over to whoever's going to be the shareholders by selling them the shares. Those shareholders then, because of a shareholder agreement, which is in the bylaws,
No. The shareholder agreement is separate. It is a separate 20-page document about what the shareholders and their power is and what their responsibility in relation is to the board.
And then based on the bylaws, which they can't put in place yet, because by the shareholder agreement, they have to abide by the bylaws that don't exist, but in order the shareholder agreement first, you have to use that in order to put the board in, which is the chairman, the CEO, the CFO, COO, whatever the hell you want to call it.
But wait, to put the board in, you have to have an employment agreement stating what is that person's salary, what is their position, why are they accepting this?
You gotta remember, the CEO and the CFO and presidents and treasurers, they're just employees of a company. They're not actually the owners or anything else.
This isn't an LLC.
They work for the company. Mm-hmm. So in order for them to get in place, like you said, you got to put an employment contract in place. Which then means that once you get all that crap together and you bundle into one big BS package, you can finally do the first step, which is then actually approve and adopt the bylaws, and then move the rest of the chain down, which is opening the website and getting the phone number and the bank account and the other rest of the board members if they're relevant and all the rest of the regular business crap. but you got to do it in that retarded backwards order to make it make sense.
I'm going to show you guys what our company binder looks like after 1 minutes meeting, but now there's a second meeting. It's called corporate resolution,
Yes.
and that's just between the board and the board.
Yes.
So no shareholders,
Nope.
just the board. And the board is now, that's where you start saying, this is the website, this is what we're approving, this is what we're going. This YouTube channel had to be approved by the board that is sitting here talking to you in an actual formal board, a corporate
literally had to
resolution
put this
before
in a
we could sit there and
resolution.
even do this video.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense. Our joke of a Twitter that just posts memes, we had to literally specify what is the purpose of the Twitter account, how will it be utilized, who's the one managing it, our Facebook page, how will it be utilized, who's the one managing it, our website, every single domain, we had to add all that into it. And we actually, after this video, we're gonna have another board meeting to adopt even more things, because the thing is, I don't own it. He doesn't own it. The company owns it. It is a literal third person that doesn't exist. Anybody who says that a company isn't a person is a liar. They are 100% a completely separate entity from you and I altogether. They exist but don't exist at the same time. That, by the way, has taken up a good chunk now of 2 weeks of our time before we finally got it up and
the
running.
bureaucratic bull of getting paperwork together.
Yes.
Literally took 2+ weeks. So we already took 4 days coming up with a name, and then 2+ weeks of just getting the freaking company to be formalized to then start doing business, right? No. God, no.
No.
You don't do business right after you get a company up. God, no.
This is how you descend men into madness.
Yes.
Now, I'll be straight with you. If you have 10 grand, pay an attorney.
Just pay the guy.
Just pay the guy. Tell him exactly what you want. I highly recommend you do your own research so you don't put yourself in a bad position with your own company, because once you start getting shareholders into your organization, it's going to start getting harder and harder to change anything if you didn't set yourself up for the future.
Yep.
But just pay the guy, let him do it all, let him set it all up for you, let him get it all put together, and just be done with it. We're rats. And we live on the dangerous side.
And we're cheap and dumb.
Yes.
And so we not only double down, we don't triple down, we don't quadruple down, we keep going down and screwing ourselves harder because we're here to learn. AKA, we're just cheap deadbeats and we didn't want to pay somebody.
We physically buy our shares. We have a actual corporate seal where we sit there and we're stamping our shares to make sure it's valid by the company, by everything else, and applying by all the laws. You're done, right?
No.
No. So, we ran into the new issue of finding out that when you issue any kind of stock, there is a chance, not 100% sure, we're still trying to figure this out, we have no clue what we're doing on this, there's apparently a chance that you might have to file with the Federal Trade Commission. Because you just issued stock to non-accredited investors, which if you don't know what an accredited investor is, it means that you smart enough with money that you don't need the government to step in and tell you you're too dumb to spend your money on things. I'll literally put for you guys what the definition from the Federal Trade Commission is of an accredited investor here. So you guys will see it right now, and you'll get a chance to actually look at it. Exactly what you have to be. It's something like you have to bring in like $200,000 a year. You have to, or you have to have like a couple. You have to be a multimillionaire through assets, or you have to. There's like 3 different things that can make you an accredited investor. However, we're none of these,
Yep.
and we just issued stock. So, now we're trying to figure out, do we file with the Federal Trade Commission?
And to add on to that real quick, a company is only legally allowed to issue out so many shares or amount of volume of shares to non-accredited investors. From our knowledge, based off of what we saw, our company is only legally allowed to issue it up to 35. And last I checked, he's 1, I'm 2, we only have 33 left, give or take.
Yeah, and we have no clue if this actually needs to be registered or not, so that's a whole new plethora we're going down right now, because I still don't know what we're doing with that.
Lucky you get 15 days, and we haven't hit that point yet since we issued the stock, so we have to just kind of get on that here the next couple of days, but we'll get on it soon. It's not a big deal. It's a pretty quick filing from what we understand.
Yeah, it's just figuring out what exactly we're filing for. So yeah, so now you're potentially in trouble with the FTC. Great! I always wanted to be in trouble with the Federal Trade Commission. Why wouldn't I want to have issues with them? But you got to move forward, right? So here's how we move forward. We decided, well, you know what? We started working on the website. Congratulations, I'm the website editor, the main one. Derek is obviously
the corporate resolution says so.
Yeah. Derek
the board agreed to this.
So Derek has sat there and he's helped me out where he can. But we're like, hey, let's also get a 1-800 number. How hard could it be to sit there and get a 1-800 number? Well,
and that was the near nail in the coffin, by the way.
Yeah, that one
for a startup. Oh my God, that is the near nail in the coffin to just make you go mad.
So you would think you could just sit there and you could go to some local phone company, T-Mobile, Verizon, or whatever else, get a simple 1-800 number with some automated voice message and just pay them, right? No,
that'd be so easy.
No, you can't. So you have two options. You either option A, find a company that offers 1-800 numbers, or option B, build an entire system for a 1-800 number that's basically a phone line that is forever 24/7 on, that you program and you create to make it do what you want it to do. We're rats.
That's right.
We went with the other company. But it's not that simple. There's hundreds of them. Some of them are actually legitimate scams. Well, after we narrowed through as much as we could, we came down to a couple of picks, and we decided to go with a company that was called Grasshopper. I'll kind of show you guys their logo here now so you can see. The sad thing is about Grasshopper, I'm just going to let you guys know, spoiler alert, story doesn't end well. We get a cool number. We actually really like it. We were really getting into it. We had actually paid somebody to sit there and do voiceovers for our corporate line to go ahead and start... like when you call in, it's in there's like, hey, welcome to Metra.
That automated response.
Yeah, that automated response system. Yeah. We paid somebody to sit there and put all this together. We paid for the phone number. We paid for all this stuff to come together. And we finally finished it. I kid you not, yesterday we put all of it together in this beautiful, beautiful package.
Less than 24 hours ago.
It is, right now, it is January 29th. We have put this entire automated system, every extension, everything we need into this beautiful package.
100% done. We finished it. Took us like 5 days, but we finished it, got it all set up, and perfected it.
And I wake up this morning, and I try to log into the account, and it says that my account has been canceled. Interesting development. I call in, trying not to panic, because I just wasted 5 days on this and money on this. And I get told that we have been canceled for fraud.
Yeah.
I asked them, what fraud have we committed?
Fair
we
question.
have not even launched our website properly yet, nor started advertising our business. Please explain to me.
This phone number has only existed for like 3 days.
Yes. And I'm like, please explain this to me. And then they turn around and they contact their mystical unicorn of tier 2. And they come back and say, okay, yeah, they don't know. They're just saying that it's been registered as a fraudulent account and that they closed it down. I'm like, okay, well, it's not fraudulent. Reopen it. We can't do that. Okay. Give me the number. We can't do that. Why is my account closed? Goes back to tier 2, comes back and now changes the story saying we broke terms of service for a phone number that has not even been released to the general public yet.
And the only people who have called it is ourselves testing it.
Yes, getting everything operational and good to go. What terms of service did I break? I can't answer that. So, you are refusing to reinstate my account. You first said it was fraudulent when it's clearly not. You're then saying that we somehow broke terms of service, and you can't tell me the exact terms of service that I broke. Because now, what we're in a position of is that we've now lost the thing that we just spent all this time and effort putting together. So we're back on the hunt. So now we had to get a new 1-800 number. We're currently with a company called
Freedom Voice.
Yeah, Freedom Voice.
Yep.
And we were able to luckily port a lot of the voice messaging. And the guys there, so far, I'm a little skeptical,
we're
obviously.
less than 24 hours in with them.
Yeah.
We think we have everything mostly set up, and so far they've been pretty hands-on with helping us get it all running. In fact, he was panicking so much, he actually called them down the road later.
Yeah, earlier today, I actually called them like, "Hey, what will you guys literally perma-ban us from not using your service?" And, like the Grasshopper people were all a bunch of Indian call centers, like you'd normally expect.
Yep.
But this is actually an American call center, and like the guy just responded with like, "Yeah, if you don't pay." I'm like, "Okay, I can do that. Is there anything else that you will pay me for if I don't do?" He's like, no, there's nothing that I could possibly think of. Is there anything in your terms of service that I'm not allowed to do? He's like, honestly, you'd have to go through the entire terms of service on it. I'm like, okay, is there anything that you've ever experienced where somebody just loses their account for no reason? He's like, no, I haven't experienced that. I'm like, okay. I'm like, that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable because I was like, I just got Jewed and I really don't want to get Jewed again. Keep in mind, by the way, Grasshopper is still not giving me my refund.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting. I paid for
any
a
response. Year. No refund or response. It's just magically up in the air.
I literally paid for a year. I am getting my refund. I don't care how. Figure it out. So, right now, that's who we're with. We're finishing setting all that up. And luckily, projection-wise, it looks like we'll have this done probably by tomorrow. That's at least what we're hoping for.
Theoretically, we should be good to go by the time this video goes up, so you'll be able to see that number and be able to use it and call it in and actually get a hold of us. Hopefully, if it doesn't get taken down or we got screwed in some way again. But you'll know by that point because you'll see when you call if it doesn't exist and we got screwed again.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll get the update on it in the February video.
Exactly.
So, with that being said, okay, yeah, a little bit of phone trouble.
No. So, I want to jump in on this one. Oh, boy. So, we obviously have to have some type of phone telecommunication process in order to be able to do our day-to-day business, like calling somebody, texting somebody, doing whatever it is to get a hold of somebody and get the deal done, right? So, previously, in a previous business that we had individually, we had T-Mobile, and they do a pretty decent job with their business program. They have other little benefits too, like Netflix and some other stuff that we didn't really take too much advantage of. But in general, they have some good service, and it's relatively cheap, and we're the rats that we are, so we dig around and look for the cheapest crap that we can find. And T-Mobile was cheap. Not the greatest service, who cares? Cheap. So anyways, so with that being said, we had a very simple task. Hey, fellow T-Mobile person, can you please just do a very simple transfer of everything we have on said account to new account under new EIN being Metra, instead of being whatever it was, literally make it this. And they're like, nah, yeah, you can't do that. And I'm like, wait, what? And we're like, you can't just like rename it, new EIN, anything like that. And they're like, nope, you gotta open a whole new company, a whole new account, start it all over from scratch, maybe move it over if you get lucky. And we're like, okay, what do you mean by that? And then we had to keep going up the call lines and the call centers and similar process, bunch of Indians. Most of them had no idea what the hell we were trying to do. They were trying to tell us something completely different solution to a completely different problem. And then eventually we got to one guy who was like, yeah, you can kind of do that. What we'd have to do is whenever you open this new company, you can transfer whatever you can get over, basically the numbers. And then everything else, like promotions and crap, we'll have to manually transfer them over. Not all of them will transfer because you have some promotional credits that are not existent anymore. But we can get you most of the stuff over. And we're like, okay, cool, that sounds simple, we'll do it. And he's like, you gotta go to a store, and we're like, okay, cool. Prior to that, by the way, we went to a store, they told us we had to call online told us to go to a store, and the store told us to go back online, and then they finally said go to a store and then have them call online, and we're like, okay, fine. So we did this finally, and this is like our third time in the store now. We go to a store, we finally figure out, okay, we're gonna go ahead and open up an account, or a new business account, and then just do that whole porting system. God, no. Absolutely not. It's not that simple. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was a freaking disaster. So, we opened said new company. We opened it all up under this new EIN. Everything makes legal sense. It's perfectly normal. Then we start getting into the part where they get to the call center. So, once again, we're in the store. We physically signed up on all the paperwork saying we have a new company starting up. Then the T-Mobile employee has to call in that same Indian line, but they're just going to tell them their T-Mobile ID, and then they can go from there. Well, they get transferred to another department who then transfers them to another department who then does it again because they have no idea how the hell to do this. And
listen, I'm going to jump in and say this right now. All of T-Mobile's customer support is Indians who speak the bare minimum amount of English to understand what you're saying. I do not care what anybody says. If you have an experience that you actually need something rectified with T-Mobile, good luck.
Yeah, it's impossible. You're
barking
up the wrong tree.
Don't get mad at the store representatives because we found out the hard way they have zero power. They can't do anything except open accounts, upgrade your phone, and then change your plan. They literally cannot do anything. Everything must go through this Indian call center. T-Mobile, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Who designed this?
So we had to go to the almighty Indian call center with all the magical powers, who have no idea how to use said powers. And they couldn't do anything. They were screwed up and lost. So what they wound up doing, and here's the general disaster that turned out to be. So the first time, the first time is in the third time we were at the store, but the first time we actually started doing the business part, him and I are sitting in the store for about 4 hours. And what we got done with that was nothing. We opened up a new account. We got transferred onto the new account. The new account was wrong. Instead of it being under a specific business account that's dictating that it's under a corporate EIN. No, it was a sole proprietorship and everything's under me, and that would have absolutely screwed us over tax-wise because now we're trying to say that this is a business expense that the business isn't even really taking advantage of, and it's not their expense. It's me as a personal person. I'm just an employee. And no, it almost
would have been a crazy what he's trying to say is that what we understand it as is that it would have literally looked like tax fraud. Yeah. Because it'd be him saying that his personal T-Mobile plan was a business plan for the company, and that would be fraudulent.
Which doesn't make any freaking sense whatsoever. And plus, if I ever leave the business in any way, like I sell my shares or I'm not an employee or anything like that anymore, if the company is still running under my personal and I literally am leaving T-Mobile as well to go do like Verizon or something like that, the entire company falls apart telecommunications-wise because it's all under me. Dumbest system ever. So we're like, no. You're fixing that ASAP. Well, we come to find out after the chain of command keeps going up and they go into some other different variable fields to figure out why the hell this is such a disaster, basically Indian T-Mobile almighty powerful call center screwed us up. Who would have guessed, right? And what we were supposed to have done was a very simple transfer, and instead what they did was they did a whole new company, and they did a whole new credit check, started the whole new company under me being a personal person, not as a company, and then just put my EIN attached underneath of it, and just made it a sole proprietorship instead of being a specifically company. And it was supposed to be the other way around, where it's under the EIN of the company, and I'm just a personal guarantor, meaning that I'm taking personal financial responsibility. So they did it backwards. You think it would be a simple fix, right? God, no way. It never works that way. No, they had to basically either, one of two things, terminate every single thing that I've ever been attached to ever in the God history of T-Mobile, or make a new company with a completely new personal guarantor. And we're like,
but the new company is the same company under the same EIN, under the same company, under the same personal guarantor, and they could not figure out how to do this to save their damn life.
So literally what we tried to do in the store, and it completely failed instantly, is they were like, oh, you have to have a new personal guarantor, you're attached to the old company. And we're like, yeah, because you screwed it up. And they're like, well, it's too late now, we can't fix it. And we're like, okay. So
yeah, the almighty powerful call center that has all the powers of T-Mobile, and everything that T-Mobile can possibly do can't do something.
So supposedly, so here's what we did next, right? So then supposedly we had to have a new personal guarantor, so we ran the whole new company under him, declined immediately, specifically because the EIN was already in use. Why? Because it's still under me! And that's the phone that we're currently using to talk to people. So obviously it's still in use, you idiots. So anyways, then it goes up the chain of command again to some other person, this time not in the call centers, but to the actual T-Mobile, like, whatever you want to call executive side, whatever you want to say their particular field is called.
Yeah, basically, like, it's not like the store manager. They can't do anything either. It's not even the district manager. They can't do anything either. You have to go that high up the chain to get something that's this simple fixed.
Some lady, don't know her name particularly, obviously we didn't meet with her in person, but the representative that we worked with did finally get a hold of them. So she gets involved, and she basically just supposedly fixes it by doing exactly like we said. Delete everything, start over. So then we had to go back to the store, and it should have been a supposed quick, simple, easy problem to fix. We just have to sign off on some new paperwork. They're not going to run our credit again. Everything should be smooth, simple, and dandy. We just have to start the company again, do the transfer. Back where we were step one, but this time we're not attached to anything. I go in there, this time by myself, there for 3 hours. This time, they can't even find a guy to be able to do the transfer. They're calling one guy, who then sends it to another guy, sends it to another guy, and all of them are like, yeah, you can't do transfer. That's impossible. We don't have that power. Even though they did it earlier and screwed it up, they're now saying you can't do it at all. And then the supposed super high person, this lady that's in the executive branch of T-Mobile, way over top of the entire call center, is like, that's literally their job. And they're like, we don't know how to do it. We're just a small Indian team out in the middle of nowhere. We know how to do this. And so we're like, okay, what the hell do we got to do? So then he basically just does like a Band-Aid fix, kind of does a quick transfer, sort of. But then we have like 8 lines on our account. There's a whole weird thing. We're only supposed to have 4. And then a whole other issue of they had to like re-delete, but transfer, then keep our like T-Mobile IDs, which is their login stuff, to be able to follow our bill. All that stuff's supposed to transfer too, as well as promotions, but nobody knew how to do that at the time. Whatever. They were just like, just get the company up and running, and then we'll figure out one thing at a time. So finally, we get our names and numbers and everything transferred over to our new company.
So right now, as it currently sits, our T-Mobile account is all of our lines that are supposed to be there.
Yes.
No additional lines.
They fixed that.
They fixed that. It is under a company now.
Yes.
It is registered as a company.
Yes.
They fixed that.
Not a sole proprietorship like it was. Now it's specifically under a corporate business account.
However, the debt on some of our phones are just gone. And with a cell phone company, your debt on your phone doesn't just disappear.
No.
That's a terrifying thing, because what that means is that doesn't get solved quickly.
Yep.
They're going to send you a bill for the full amount of the phone.
Yes, which we don't want to pay because, we just spent all this money so far getting this company up, and we have some device payments on some phones that we don't want to pay all at one time. So, not only do we have that issue, but we also have the other issue of, is for some odd reason, for our previous accounts, even though it was always me as a personal guarantor, Vlad was always the account manager.
Yeah, I never understood that. He literally is financially, this is how stupid this is. He's financially responsible for the account. If I just added 10 lines on there, brand new phones and everything else like that, and then I just wanted to bounce out with those phones, sell them on the black market or whatever else, he's the one that takes all the responsibility. But yet, on all of our accounts, he had no power to ever do anything.
I was a regular, just on the bottom tier, like a kid on parents' phone plan.
And the thing is, it constantly kept putting me as the primary one that was in charge of it all. So I just managed it all and took care of it. And then there was one time as well where somehow both of us got removed as an authorized user on the account, so neither one of us could make changes.
Yeah, so then we call in again, this time because he's the account manager still, but this, for some reason, when he logs in, it was on our own company, the old company that we had that had supposedly been deleted out of their system. And nobody can get in to make any changes to the account. I'm just a kid on a parent plan, and he's supposed to be the parent who's on a completely different parent name. And so nothing makes any sense. So we call in, try to get that fixed. It's not really getting resolved. So what we had to do is we had to make me back to what it should have been, me being the account manager, and then him just being some regular person on the plan, and then everybody else regular people on the plan. Or make him, an account, whatever it's called.
The almighty Indian call team couldn't even do that. I am still permanently stuck on the old plan.
Yeah,
like the account that doesn't even exist.
And when he says permanently stuck, I mean literally when he logs in, even if he logs in specifically with the login credentials for the new company, not like him signing in on his phone number. I mean, the credentials very specific to the new company. It ties him back to the previous company. He's forever banned from looking at anything new company related. Everything. He's on the plan. Can't look at any of it.
Yeah, what a deal. So the thing is that you would think, okay, well obviously this should have been resolved by now and this should be done. No, we are still at phase trying to just figure out our device payments. And at this point, I don't care that I don't have access to the account. I can use his login to do whatever I need to. I just need them to just fix this last thing. And I swear to God, if we ever create a new company in the future, I don't think I'm using T-Mobile to do this transfer.
No.
I literally think I'm willing to pay to transfer to another company, like Verizon or something, use their services for about a month or two, and then transfer back. Because then they can't screw it up. They can't. They just can't. Yep. I cannot believe the difficulty this has created. This is absurd. Give your in-store reps the power to do what they need to do. They have no power. Why is the in-store rep literally castrated, but yet is still required by the call center to come in and do things, but then it's made such a difficult issue for them to actually be able to do anything? A rep should not have to spend 5 hours plus with a single customer to do one thing because of the call center. At Verizon, it didn't work that way. This is absurd.
Yes.
And by the way, their call center, the reps call center is the almighty Indians.
Yeah, it's the
Even the reps can't get anywhere without the almighty Indians.
Yeah, so just so you guys have a general idea of timeline on this, it took us, and still is, exactly about 2 weeks now. And we don't have confirmation if our phone plan is exactly the way it's set up. We're still able to make calls and everything's still going fine. We're still able to do our daily tasks and whatnot, but we're kind of living on a prayer right now. We have no idea if our phone plan even is in existence,
or if we're going to end up getting like a giant bill for some ungodly
which we'll find out
number
in February with our February update.
Yes, so that's the other thing. So now let's move on to the next thing. So great little business investment we got. We have a broker that we work with, great guy, phenomenal guy. And so what he sat there and what he did is that he actually brought us the opportunity.
Real quick. The first thing a business ever needs to do after they kind of get established is to get capital, aka money, to be able to do the business or the tasks or whatever they're going to do. Well, one of the ways to do that is to get a loan or to get, some type of income coming in. Usually you have to pay it back in some way, and that's exactly what we're going to do is seek it out. But because we're a brand new company and we don't really want to personally guarantee everything because we're trying some other stuff with our personal ventures, we have to start off with building up some type of portfolio, getting it seasoned, aka just make it old enough, and then we can get traditional loans. But in the meantime, we want to get some more income so we can build more money faster. So one of the more standard routes of doing that is getting private money or private equity of some kind to borrow against, and then this disaster happens.
So the broker we work with, he's a phenomenal guy. He's great. Like, if you need any kind of traditional loans or whatever else, he's a phenomenal guy to work through. The issue here is that he brought us this opportunity. So this lady was supposedly offering this equipment conversion loan, and what the terms of it were is that basically you pay $2,500, you send it over, and one of her vendors is going to get a loan for a very expensive piece of medical equipment. So in this case, it was supposed to be like an MRI machine or something like that. Apparently, MRI machines are ridiculously expensive, and I cross-referenced this to find out that it is true. This MRI machine was going to be worth somewhere around $800,000. The deal is the way this is going to work is that this vendor is supposed to get this loan for this MRI machine. He was then going to keep a portion of it, like 15% or something like that. Yeah, so he was going to keep like $150,000 of this loan, and then the rest of it, the $600 some odd dollars, would get sent to us. We would be responsible for paying on the loan, and his biggest responsibility would be making sure we didn't default on the loan. So in a sense, it was just a trade of capital, and the vast majority of the risk was on this vendor person, because in a typical equipment loan, from what we understand, is that if you don't pay it, the lender is supposed to be able to repossess the equipment, but he never buys the equipment. That's on him. That's his problem. Well, we were interested in this, so we were like, yeah, sure, whatever. It was a $2,500 to do all this paperwork and get it all set up, and that we would potentially be looking at a loan amount of $600,000 after all of his fees and everything else that was involved. Yeah, that turned out to be a complete and total scam. The company that we were working with was called Excel Capital. The lady is named Sharon. What's her last name? Dean. Sharon Dean. Well, Ms. Dean decided that it was getting too sketchy and that she didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. we informed her that we would like to still seek answers because at this point we paid for a service and we're not getting the service. So we either want a refund from whoever it is that's sitting there not providing us the service, or we want the service to continue forward. And she refuses to give us the name, the number, or the email address or any point of contact to the next person above her. And she rambled on and made this long story about how, well, no, it doesn't work that way. You can't talk to these people. Like, I'm just a middleman. I'm just a broker, blah, blah, blah. So basically, we have a broker. He's contacting her. She's a broker for this other person who might be a broker, who might actually be getting in touch. And she refused to give out any of the information. Now, where do we send the money, you ask? We sent it directly to Sharon. Little suspicious, if you ask me. So we sent a $2,500 to her. She then turns around through her company, Excel Capital, decides that she wasn't going to actually do anything with it, and refuses to provide us any kind of proof or anything like that with it. So basically, we went from potentially getting these funds to now just basically being given the runaround, and her refusing to now speak to us in any capacity because we were demanding that she sits there and she provides us the information up. We weren't even trying to accuse her. We actually had no reason to accuse her whatsoever until she started behaving the way that she did. Mm-hmm. So, with that being said, look out for a company called Excel Capital. They're supposedly from California. Sharon Dean, Dale and Rachel. So if you ever get any kind of brokerage opportunity or whatever else from this Excel Capital with a Sharon, Dale, or Rachel, be very, very cautious with it, because the thing is, I'm not going to come out blatantly and say that like she's a fraudster, she's a scammer, or anything like that. However, her story doesn't add up. Her refusal to give us any further contact information doesn't add up. We even just asked her, just show us a proof where you sent the funds that we sent you to this other party. Just something. Refused to do that. Starting to look pretty bad. I'm not willing to 100% accuse them. However, I will say you should be incredibly cautious doing any kind of business with them, their group, or anything dealing with it. Again, their email is going to be Excel Capital. I'll sit there and I'll just show you guys the email real quick. Look out for this email and just keep an eye out if you do decide to do business with them in the future. Not saying they're going to screw you over, but you should be cautious. With that being said, now we're on to the biggest one. You're a company. Well, that's great. Nobody knows of you. That's why you need a website.
What?
Yep. You need a website. And you need it now. Because without a website, you don't look legitimate. Nobody's going to really want to work with you. You have no platform to advertise on. And you have no online presence whatsoever. So when somebody tries to research your company to see if you're valid or not, they're going to get a lot more curious and concerned about working with you.
So basically you're saying
you don't have a website.
If you don't have a website, you're a scammer.
That's exactly right. If you don't have a website, you're a scammer. Because the thing is, websites take time to build.
Yep.
Or
cost money.
They cost a lot of money to build. We're rats, so we're taking the time to build
That's
it.
right.
Wix.com, baby. If you guys would sponsor me, that'd be phenomenal, because I have given you guys thousands of dollars at this point.
And great. We could use those thousands of dollars back.
Yes. Great website building tool. If you have no experience at all building a website, I cannot recommend Wix enough. I have now built my third website, being Metra, through Wix. It's a great program. It's easy to learn. It's easy to understand. And any of the coding aspects of it, you could throw out the window. They have very good things. I can't recommend Wix enough. If you're starting a new company, a new organization, Wix is the way to go. Thing is, though, is that one of the biggest things is that building a website takes so much time. It is not an easy process. And the hardest part of a website is design. And when I say design, I literally mean making it look pretty. Like this, everything you're seeing here, this is all part of design. Websites are such a pain to design.
And to jump in on that, one of the reasons why it's also a huge pain to design is because it's got to be like a mix of a bunch of different things. One, it's got to be like super quick and simple because people have incredibly short attention spans. Two, it's got to be pretty enough that it's like the shiny gold coin and they're attracted to it. And then three, it's also got to be like informative enough so that they actually have an idea of what they're getting into, and they want to delve further by either reaching out to you or researching more onto it via the same website. So you have to have short enough, pretty enough, informative enough, all in one package, which you're like, how the hell do you do this sometimes? That's what he means by design being an issue.
If you aren't a creative person, don't build your own website. It's going to come out awful because it's going to be very boring and it's going to just be something that people are just going to drag at. It's not going to do what you need it to do. You have to have creativity. You have to have art flow. And a lot of times you got to get secondary opinions, and you're going to be doing a lot of edits and changes. So we've been working on this for about 2 weeks now. It's just barely ready for launch. Like, we are talking, it's so, not necessarily bare bones, but it's just so crammed, packed together, and a little rushed that we're just trying to go ahead and launch it out as soon as possible, making sure that all the basic core parts work, so then we can keep updating it and upgrading it and making it better from there for everything else we want to do. And the thing is, too, is that Wix is actually a pretty inexpensive price. It's really not bad for what you're getting. Only problem is that you don't really pay for your website. You're going to forever pay them a subscription because basically you're using all their code and like intellectual properties, like stock images that they have, and so on and so forth. So you're basically paying a yearly subscription. But again, it's phenomenal. It is a business, and if you're wanting to do it right and you're wanting to do it legitimate, you got to get a Wix.
Yeah, and in today's time, it's virtually impossible to really be a relevant business and not have some type of online presence. I mean, not only do you have the need for someone to be able to get in contact with you or just kind of see what your product is right away, which is exactly the point of a website. It's like being able to walk into a store 24 hours a day, and it really does help get that product or service out there immediately. The other reason is, too, is like he was kind of alluding to earlier, it's that validation, because when you do have a website, it does give you that extra little bit of information. And like he was also talking about, it does show that, one, you're willing to pay the money or put the time in to make it look like you actually do or know what you're talking about with your product or service. So it is literally kind of required in today's time. You're really shooting yourselves in the foot if you don't have a website.
I can't recommend it enough. But with websites, again, comes domains. So now we're getting back on domains. Well, wait, you guys said earlier you already have a domain. It's www.metracorporation.com. You are 100% right.
No. See, the thing is real quick, when an opportunity arises, you gotta take it.
Yep.
And that doesn't just mean any opportunity. It means, like, specifically the ones that are, like, timed exclusives. If it's, like, you have a chance to take something that you know down the road is going to be way more beneficial for you, do it.
Take it now. Because the thing is that as a new business, you have no clue where you're going to be 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now. And the thing is that if you're a business called Apple and you own, and some random dude owns Apple.com, you're not going to be able to convince him, all Apple can pay is $1,000 for that domain. No. That dude is going to hold on to that domain. He will pay for 10 years to keep that domain.
Hold out, and he will absolutely rake Apple over the coals for that money. But and the same thing happens if you're a startup today. You're pretty much worthless. But down the road, if you're worth something, but you never got the name you wanted beforehand, you're going to get killed with some babies.
So, I have been in the process of every single 8 days, I have been submitting an offer for Metra.com. How have I been submitting the offer? Well, the people who own Metra.com currently,
kind of like a whatever bid system that if they are entertained by it, they'll take it, but they don't have to, so it's just...
It's a no obligation bid, basically. So I've been throwing them in an offer every single 8 days. I started off with $1,000, and because they keep not even answering my offer, I keep lowering the offer by about $50 every 8 days. So right now we are currently at $850 is what we're offering them for Metra.com. However, I did the extra research and I found out that MetraInc.com is available. So, and the people were looking to sell it. So I sent them...
And wait, real quick, one other reason why this is such a big deal, specifically with Metra.com or MetraInc.com, is because the name that we have is MetraCorporation.com, which by itself is generally fine because it's words that you can remember, very short name for a company, right, being only 5 letters for Metra, and then a pretty common word that's used in day-to-day language like corporation. Yeah, that's generally fine, so it's pretty quick to find up on like your SEOs or search engine optimization. Really kind of works. Problem is it's freaking long. And the idea is the shorter you can make something, the significantly easier it is to stick in someone's brain because they have terrible attention span and memory. So the idea is if you can get the short, whatever it is, the shortest version of that thing that you have, get it. Especially get it early, because then you can make it the thing that sticks in someone's head.
Yep. So that's exactly what we're going for. So when we found that Metra Inc. was for sale and the guy was willing to entertain it, we sent an email off to him, got no response the first time. I then sent another one off to him again saying, hey, we want to buy, and we got in contact with this guy. This guy is an interesting character, to say the least. It's a Canadian dude who had the domain. I don't know if he had it or if the company he works for had it.
I think he works for the company.
I'm not sure what the situation is. But we then sit there and we're like, hey, we're willing to pay about $500 for this domain if you're willing to sell it to us. Well, we got some interesting offers. At first, he wasn't willing to really entertain just selling the domain, but he's like, hey, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. He offered us, like, he was calling them credits?
Yeah, he was calling them credits.
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure how to describe
this. It was like store credits, is what he was calling them, but they were really more like gift cards.
It was like gift cards to these
or coupons,
random stores, and like $1,500 plus in gift cards, like a $2,000 here, like package deals.
One was for like a furniture store in the U.S. This is a Canadian company, Canadian guy in a Canadian company selling us credits for a U.S. based furniture store that we'd never heard of, and some auction site.
I don't even know.
Something like that.
I remember he sent us the email on this. I read it. I literally just looked at Derek. I'm like, I don't even know what he's saying. Literally, like, it's English, but I can't understand it.
Literally, what he wanted us to do is that if we were to scratch his back, he'd scratch ours a little bit. So, AKA, he said he'd be willing to give us the website for free. What we'd have to do is in a weird portfolio package bundle deal of just buying all these other store credits, and we would just have to come out of pocket a casual $4,500. And we're like, wait, what? I'm like, you want me to spend $4,500 to buy this domain? And he's like, no, you're buying the credit. I'm like, F your credits, I want the domain. And I'm like, okay, what is the absolute reasonably lowest offer you're willing to take so we could just get the domain? He's like, well, you can buy these credits. We'll be willing to go down to this rate.
This guy was hard selling. He was not giving up on these damn credits, let me tell you.
He's like, okay, take this credit out for this company and just get this credit, and then we'll give you at a discounted rate. If you just pay like $1,800, I'm like, look, I'm just going to be straight with you. We're not willing to spend more than $750 for this website. Take it or leave it. Let me know. Surprisingly enough, he responded back and was like, we wanted 1,000 or at least some type of credit that equaled 1,000 plus, but we'll be willing to take your offer of $750. And sure enough, we wound up doing the purchase and we got the trade.
So let me explain something to you guys here. So this is very important for people to understand. Again, we've never met this guy. We've never seen this guy. We've never actually associated with him in any way, shape, or form. And now he's basically telling us to go ahead and send him $750 to get this domain. Protect yourself. Do not do this dumb. The dumbest way you can do this is to send this guy money through Western Union, MoneyGram, ACH bank transfer, wire transfer, or even pay with your debit card. Get a credit card. If you don't have a credit card, borrow a family member's credit card. Get a credit card from someone. It doesn't matter who. Pay them a $50 charge or pay them a $50 fee for using their credit card to do this as you sit there and you pay them as well for whatever you spend on it. The reason is because you need to use a credit card because credit cards have the ability to charge back. So what this does is that the way this guy did it, which he did it very fairly and legitimately, I got to give him credit. He basically sent us an invoice on PayPal. This is another thing you need to be careful of. An invoice is different than a donation or friends and family transfer. Look out for those. Because an invoice allows you to charge back. A donation or friends and family transfer does not.
Because one comes basically as a receipt for a transaction, which is an invoice.
Which means because he's sending you an invoice because you are paying for a product or service.
Yes.
not donating.
A chargeback only works when there is a disruption in that product or service.
Yep.
But if you just gave somebody your money, like a charitable act, aka my cousin needed $100 and I sent him $100 off my credit card, that's not an actual transfer of a product or service.
Your cousin could literally tell you F you the next day and then turn around and light your house on fire. You can't charge back against it.
And you don't get any type of receipt for that. That's why it's not an invoice.
So this guy sends us an invoice on PayPal, which is good. That was the first thing that confirmed it for me. We paid with a credit card. He only charged us $300 and something at first.
Basically half up front.
Half up front. Then after we paid that, he transferred the domain to our account because he made us make a moniker account. We usually use GoDaddy personally, but he made us make a moniker account because that's where they were hosting the domain. So we send him that. He transfers it over. We confirmed that we received the transfer. Then we sat there and we paid the rest of it. So after paying the rest of it, the transaction was considered completed. However, there was one, not saying he was doing anything wrong, but there was a little bit of a concern to me. When I looked at the owner of the domain, it wasn't showing our account as the owner. It was showing his account as the owner still. But yet we were able to use the domain, put it on our website, do everything with it. And I told Derek, I was like, look, I don't care if Moniker is a little bit cheaper than GoDaddy to keep this domain on. I don't feel comfortable leaving it here because it seems like he could pull it back. So we agreed to go ahead and transfer the domain to GoDaddy, which you can do. You can transfer domains from one service provider, like GoDaddy, Moniker. Like I think Google has certain domains that they use as well. Wix has domains. You can transfer it from any provider to another provider at any time. The only thing is to help prevent fraud, it takes about 7 days for it to accomplish. So as soon as we finished paying him, I initiated a transfer with GoDaddy and used their authorization codes that they sent out to go ahead and transfer over the domain to there. Well, sure enough, I was right. But the guy is an honest guy. Again, give him credit. Because basically, he got a ping that the domain was being transferred out. And he got a link where he could just press a button and stop the transfer. Which means that he had some kind of ownership tied to the domain still. Which luckily, I'm glad that I did that. If we buy a domain from like GoDaddy or something like that, I'll probably do the same thing. Just go ahead and transfer it somewhere else. Because now I can 100% confirm that we have a deadlock. And then it can't be pulled back, receded, or done anything like that. Because that's a good way to protect yourself with domains. Because again, you never know. You never know if maybe that domain is actually owned by somebody else on that website and it gets pulled back or whatever else. And with a chargeback period, you can only charge back for 6 months. A lot of people don't know that. There is a limit to how long you can wait before you can say a chargeback and say, hey, I didn't get what I was supposed to get. So technically speaking, if this guy did somehow have a backdoor like hold on this domain, he could have just waited 6 months, pulled it back. Now we're out of money. There's nothing we can do.
And it's 6 months from the time of the transaction.
Yeah.
Whenever that invoice was sent, so it would have been exactly 6 months and a day from now. We can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and so that's why you want to always make sure to protect yourself with that, and why we decided to go ahead and transfer it out just to keep ourselves safe and active. But luckily, that's pretty much what we got it at. So to wrap up this entire January review, basically, we hate phone companies. We hate phone companies. Do not expect anything fast from the federal government or the local governments at all right now. The Postal Service is a complete disaster.
Well, actually, the federal government was fine.
No, that is true, yeah.
And actually
the IRS website was down for like 7 days.
No, it was 4 days, and that's because they do yearly maintenance.
Oh, God.
So anyways, let me wrap it up, because this guy's clueless. So, in general, here's what we've learned. F phone companies. F phone companies. Federal government is decent. State governments, depending on what you're doing, can be okay. The federal post office is on fire, specifically in Delaware.
Don't even try to explain to a banker what you need to do.
Yep.
Just bring the documents. You're wasting your time. For doing business with Excel Capital.
Yep. Make sure you understand what you're getting into with loans in general, and that you understand how the loan process works 100%, and if you're able to protect yourself in any way, because otherwise you'll just get screwed out of money for, setting up fees or whatever. And then websites are fun, absolutely a pleasure to build. You'll love them. And then, so basically this leads to the last one, which we just talked about, which online presences are a huge deal, and make sure you aren't just kind of ignoring that. If you have a budget that you're kind of working with, make sure the vast majority of your initial budget, I'm just going to be straight up with you, is probably set aside towards just advertising. Because you can have a beautiful, amazing, perfect product, but if nobody knows about it, nobody's ever going to buy it. And there's no such thing as a product sells itself, in my opinion, because once again, unless you really get it out there and get that word of mouth going, you're not going to get out there very quickly, and you're going to have that very slow growing pains process of just trying to get some extra money in capital, and your projections are going to be way off because you're not really getting out that, large grassroots growth that you're really expecting, versus if you just kind of dumped a crap ton of money into advertising, pump a bunch of ads in people's faces, and you'll just get enough people who will be able to build that grassroots movement for you. So it's much better to just dump money into
to touch on what he's saying as well, when you hear somebody saying a product sells themselves, it's a salesman saying it.
Yep.
And the reason a salesman is saying it is because they're paying for him to basically advertise it, because the product is actually good and he's confident enough to sell it because it's a good product. Again, he's 100% right. Advertising. You got to budget out for advertising. So this is actually a good segue, because what we want to start doing as well with these minutes meetings, kind of like what a formal corporate minutes meeting would do. What we want to do is that we want to go ahead and go over some of the financials. So I'll let our CFO start going over our financials of where we're at, where we started, and where we're at now, and how much money we spent.
So in a nutshell, in January in review, we're broke. We're bankrupt, we're destitute, we're poor, we screwed everything up, we're rats who are starving now, and we need to find some cheese, because we're literally on the cusp of just falling off the face of the earth before we even get this video out. So that's kind of a review where we're at. No, in all seriousness, though, we're actually doing fine. It's just we had to pay for a bunch of mistakes, and that's exactly why we said earlier that this video is somewhat educational, so you can learn to not make the same mistakes we do if you decide to do your own business, or just kind of get whatever you're kind of going forward with, and you still can transfer some of these ideas and lessons. So, normally speaking, I would probably just put like a big list of all of our expenses kind of on the screen so you can physically see it, which we may still do. We kind of already touched on some of these. Basically, we've already spent a little over $30-something the first time for one domain, being Metra Corporation. We then spent about another $45 because we also paid for about an additional $10, I think, like insurance policy, that we don't screw ourselves by losing a domain for the Metra Inc. one. Then we paid $750 for the actual domain itself, obviously in the sale. Then we also paid for, like we said earlier in the very beginning, $75 just for reserving the name Metra with Delaware. We then paid about $185 to actually get the company filed with Delaware to make sure it's considered legally standing. We then paid about $80 and some change for the corporate binder. We then paid, what was the fee that you paid for the templates for all the paperwork that we use for our bylaws?
Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot this, guys. It's super important. I'm sorry, I have to add this in there. Legal Nature. Phenomenal group. From what I understand, it looks like it's a group of former attorneys that pretty much started up their own legal document site. This place is amazing. It has minutes meetings, it has bylaws, it has templates for shareholders agreements, it has leases, it has options, it has termination agreements, it has founders agreements, anything and everything you possibly want in a basic business agreements, Legal Nature has. I'm going to put them here. Phenomenal company. Annual subscription, I believe I paid roughly about, it was actually pretty cheap. I think it was like $50 or something like that for a whole year of service.
So we'll say 50.
Like, amazing product. If you are not very well versed in law and you're willing to take the risk yourself, use Legal Nature. Great thing. They will not validate anything as like they're legally responsible or anything like that, but it's a good starting point. I cannot recommend them enough if you're the one that has to deal with all the paperwork like I do.
Okay, so $50 or so for Legal Nature. Then we also paid for the online voice over IP phone services. Now, unfortunately, we paid for two because the other one hasn't been refunded yet. So as of this moment, we're still out of that money, and that would be about $330 and some change dollars. And then we paid about $400, but $330 something for the Grasshopper, $400 or so as Freedom Voice. Then we also had a couple transfer fee payments that we had to make in order for us to transfer on T-Mobile from our previous account to the new account.
183.
About $180 sort of dollars. And then we also had to pay for Wix, which was how much again?
So there was two things that we paid for with Wix. We paid for the actual website itself. We bought 2 years this time, I believe, right? I might be wrong, but I believe we went ahead and paid for 2 years with it just because I'm so familiar with it. I want to say those 2 years were like $183 because they gave us like a 50% discount. That's why we went ahead and went with it. Does that sound familiar? 183? I'll round it up to about 200 because obviously some of these are back in. So we'll say 200 for that. Then we also paid the 112 for the Ascension program.
I remember that.
Yeah. So 120 for the Ascension. Ascension is just an add-on for businesses. It allows you to have more contact fields. It allows you to do email campaigns, like we said before. Online presence matters. Mm-hmm. Getting subscribers to your products, what you're releasing, all of it matters. We know how important online presences are. You want to take advantage of it. But yeah, so we did about 200 on Wix for the actual website. Then we did their additional business upgrade, which was about 120.
Yep. We had a couple of little small fees here and there, just like filing fees, getting, for example, a lot of our stuff.
Yeah.
We had to get a couple papers notarized. I mean, little things that added up, probably adds up to about another extra $100 or so. And then, of course, the big whammy of it all was the amount of money that we spent for supposedly getting that equipment conversion loan, which is $2,500. Obviously, I'm going to put the actual number on the screen, so that way we have the exact amount, because this has obviously been pre-recorded prior to us doing the final audit. But in a nutshell, we should be a little over, say, $4,500. But we should be in just startup costs alone. And once again, if we didn't do the failed investment portion of it, being one, the phone service that failed us, which we should get that money back, which is $330 or so, and then the $2,500, which was unfortunately an expense that went out. That if it was successful, we would have had capital and we could grow off of it, but now it's a lost investment, so we had to kind of recover from that. With that being said, however, now we still just have to move forward with our future projections, which is where we're going to go from here. Company is basically starting off with roughly about 20 grand or so. We will have some other money that we'll be probably funneling in here and there based off of what we do with our personal incomes or whatever the company itself makes. Obviously, we're going to continue to reinvest pretty much the entirety of that amount. We have our own amount that we can live off of. But with that being said, starting in February and on, now that we've gotten everything pretty much set up in January, we'll be able to actually move forward with actual business that we do. And
again, I can't clarify this enough. All this month has been website building, phone building up, like resetting our T-Mobile account, bureaucratic paperwork, and we haven't even put out an ad. Like, that's all this. We have not even put out a single ad. The website is still not fully live at the time of this video, which again is January 29th.
Yep. So, unfortunately, normally we would give a projection of where we expect to be either by next month or 6 months
based
from now,
on these
a year.
numbers, it's negative.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have an asset that's producing any income, so we don't have any projections. We just have our current budget, which is roughly 15 and some change, 16 grand or so, which you'll see next month how we move forward with that money and make that an actual investment and start growing this company from there. But roughly speaking, these are the general startup costs. Every company's going to have them. You're going to have your hiccups here and there. You're going to have your lessons that are learned. But here's, once again, why we're making these videos. And we want to show you, yes, you're going to make mistakes along the way. Yes, we've already done 90% of this before and we still screwed up. It's just the course of life. And yes, you have to spend money in order to really kind of get anything off the ground and going. You can't really do everything free. Even though we're doing a large, vast majority of the work effectively for free, it still costs money for some certain programs.
Again, understand this too. Your time is money.
Absolutely.
And that's the issue, is that we have opted to, instead of using our money that we had set aside to go ahead and just put it to somebody else doing all this that's more familiar and understands all this, we've instead opted to sit there and do it ourselves. This is costing us money. The fact that we're not out in the field doing real estate, like what we know and what we understand, it's costing us money to still do this. This isn't us necessarily doing it free This is again, we're a bunch of cheap ass rats.
Absolutely. And we live by it, baby. So with that being said, moving forward, like I said, in February and on, you'll actually see not only our current amount, the exact amounts, because we're going to audit them prior to doing these videos, so you have the exact amount prior to, and then we're going to show you our future projections based off of that new purchase that we have, or whatever asset we have that's producing income, and where we're projected to be. And then as we continue to move forward, we're going to try to kind of delve a little further into like things such as our net worth, other costs that are associated with the company based off of what the company is producing, the company's taxable value as we get closer to tax time next year, things like when we hire employees eventually, when we get them on board, other issues like shares and the stock value that we have at the time. And just a couple little things as we kind of go along and we trudge down the path that this company is going to grow, or may not grow. Depends on where we land. We don't exactly know. That's kind of the best part about the future, is that we can only hope and see where we land as we continue to push forward and make our own way in life and see where this company kind of goes.
20 grand, I'll sell everything we just did.
I'm willing to settle for 10.
20 grand, and you will get MetraInc.com, MetraCorporation.com.
You get 2.
The Articles of Incorporation.
Bam,
the
done.
EIN.
It's
the
ready.
T-Mobile account.
It's kind of there.
Yeah. The website.
It's ready.
All of our shares. 100% company ownership. Our bylaws. Our corporate binder. Our corporate seal. All of it at a very big-ass disclaimer that I have no clue if we did it right or set it up correctly. 20 grand can be yours right now.
Absolutely. Don't forget the virtual address. Don't forget the 1-800-ish number that we may or may not have by the time this video goes out. Don't forget the online, the presence that we have with the call center that we sort of set up, that we paid somebody for doing the voiceover part of that. And we also have some other little things such as like logos and icons already produced that obviously we hand over to you.
This YouTube channel, yours. The Twitter, yours. The Facebook, yours.
All in one convenient bundle. This isn't a sales pitch, it's just an offer.
Save me.
It's a, just like Metra.
Get me out of this situation.
Just like Metra.com, it's just a bit. Just a bit. Just throw it out there. Just we're willing to take.
Now, next month it's going to be more expensive, so
Get
buy
in while
now.
you can. It's cheap now, alright? Don't be a holdout.
Where's this going to put our... Oh, is this what we're going to do every video? Just put our company
Put the
on
new
sale?
value of the sale, and there you go.
Oh, God. Alright, well, I think we pretty much wrapped up all of January. Again, obviously this video ran a bit longer because, unfortunately, there was a lot more than we thought we had to do. And to us personally, this is pretty boring. But hey, to some of you guys, this might help you actually setting up your corporation in some way, shape, or form and make better decisions than what we did. I think we're pretty much good to go. I say it's a good time for us to check out.
Yep, so if you want to run through the minutes meeting and go ahead and make sure that we're in compliance.
Alright, well, in a traditional minutes meeting, I will now make sure and ask all that are present, are there any objections? Excellent. Then I will sit there and I will proceed on. We've accepted the resolution.
Yep.
The company will continue forward with its next projections for the next month and what it's hoping to do and what it's hoping to accomplish. And with that, we are signing out. Good night, everybody.
See you later.